I woke up screaming, and of all faces in the world, his was the first one I saw. Pain shot through my side like a knife made of fire. My vision blurred. Smoke curled in the air, thick with the scent of blood, ash, and something darker, burned fur. The forest was no longer green. It was black and red. I tried to move. Bad idea. Easy. A voice, low, firm, and nauseatingly familiar. No. Not him. Anyone but him. Don't touch me, I hissed, shoving the hand away before it reached me. My fingers curled into the ground, half-frozen dirt scraping under my nails as I tried to sit up. Ezra, you're hurt. You think I didn't notice? I snapped. My eyes finally adjusted, and there he was. Darian, alpha of the Moonspire pack, golden boy. Stoic, flawless, born leader with a jaw sharp enough to slice egos and eyes that never showed anything unless it served him. I hated him. I'd hated him since we were 16, and he'd humiliated me in front of the entire pack during sparring, pinned me in seconds, smirked like it meant nothing, and walked away as if I didn't exist. And now he was kneeling beside me like some noble protector. What are you even doing here? I growled, struggling upright. My side screamed in protest. Go save someone who wants your help. He didn't rise, just watched me with that infuriating calm, like he was seeing through every word I said. We were ambushed. No kidding. 6 down. 2 missing. You were nearly one of them. And you're blaming me? That sparked something in him. His brows drew together. Not with anger, but with something dangerously close to concern. I hated that more than the arrogance. Ezra, I'm not blaming you. Spare me the alpha speech, I bit out. You led us into this mess. You underestimated the rogues, again. The silence that followed should have satisfied me. But it didn't. I forced myself to stand. My legs trembled, my body throbbed like it had been trampled by a bear, but I wasn't going to collapse in front of him. Then it hit. A sharp jolt in my chest, like someone had punched straight into my sternum from the inside out. I stumbled. My hand flew to my ribs. Not pain. No, not pain like from the wound. This was something else. Foreign, wrong, and yet familiar. I heard my name. Whispered. Not aloud, but somewhere. And Darian froze. His head turned slightly, nostrils flaring. His gaze sharpened, locked onto mine like something ancient had snapped awake inside him. You felt that, he said. No. My voice cracked. He stepped closer. Say it. You felt it. I backed away. My heart hammered. No. No, I didn't. But I had. I'd felt him. His heartbeat, his breath, his damn presence, sinking beneath my skin like smoke, like fire. No. No, no, no. This can't be. His eyes never left mine. You're my bond. I shook my head violently. No, that's impossible. You're an alpha. You're mine. I'd rather die. The words came out cold. Too fast. Too desperate. Darian flinched, just barely. But it was the first time in my life I saw something human break across his face. Hurt. Good. Because this wasn't happening. It couldn't be happening. Bonds were rare. Sacred. I didn't want one. Especially not with him. I turned away, clutching my ribs, willing the world to stop spinning. I needed air. Space. Time. But all I could feel was him. Just standing there. Silent. Present. Watching me fall apart from the inside. Snow fell in sheets, thick and fast, like the sky was trying to bury us. The forest had turned unrecognizable. No paths, no scent trails. Just a white void and trees groaning under the weight of the storm. I limped behind Darian, every step grinding fire into my hip. We need shelter, he said without looking back. I almost told him to go to hell, but the wind shoved the breath right out of my lungs. By the time we spotted the old hunting cabin, I was shaking, not from cold, but from being near him. My instincts screamed to get away, and my body screamed when I tried. The moment I crossed the threshold, I doubled over. It felt like someone had dropped an anchor in my chest, yanking me to the floor. Darian was already at my side. "Don't touch me," I gasped. But I didn't push him this time. He didn't try to help again. Just stayed nearby, close enough that the stabbing pressure in my chest eased. Barely. We didn't talk as we lit the stove with old matches and started a fire. The cabin was small, barely more than 4 walls, a cot, and a pile of dusty blankets. It smelled like mildew and old pine sap. I curled up in the farthest corner, nursing my pride and wounds. Darian sat across from me, arms resting on his knees, silent, watching the fire. The flames crackled. Time stretched. I hated how quiet he was. How calm, like nothing had happened. Like the world hadn't just collapsed under my feet the moment he said, "You're mine." "This doesn't make sense," I muttered. Darian's eyes flicked up. "It doesn't have to. It just is." I scowled. "That's convenient." He didn't answer. For a moment, I thought he'd fallen asleep sitting upright. But then he said, barely audible over the storm outside, "You're in pain when I move too far away." "I feel it too." I didn't respond, because it was true. When he stepped outside earlier, just to check the surroundings, I thought my lungs might implode. The ache was worse than the physical wounds. This bond, or whatever it was, wasn't just in our heads. It was real. And I hated it. That night, we didn't speak again. The fire burned low. Wind howled against the windows. Somewhere in the trees, something screamed. A fox, maybe. Or a rogue. I lay curled under a blanket on the floor, trying to sleep, trying not to feel him just a few feet away. His breath. His heartbeat. The way he shifted when he thought I was asleep. But the worst part was what came next. The dream. I was a boy again. Small, defenseless. Alone in the woods. Something snarled behind me. A rogue, dripping red, lunging. And then a wolf, silver and dark, slammed into the rogue, snarling louder, bigger, shielding me. He looked at me. And I knew. It was him. I woke up with a sharp gasp, heart pounding, sweat cold on my neck. "Nightmare?" Darian's voice came softly in the dark. "Shut up." But he didn't push. He never did. By morning, the storm hadn't stopped. The snow had climbed halfway up the cabin walls. I paced like a caged animal. My body needed space. My mind needed escape. "I'm leaving," I said. "You won't make it 10 steps. Watch me." I grabbed my jacket, ignored the pain, and made it to the door before my knees buckled. He caught me before I hit the floor. The contact sent a jolt through both of us. Like lightning. But not painful. Not this time. A pull. A flicker of comfort. I shoved him off. Breath ragged. "You always want everything," I snapped. "Power. Obedience. Control. Now you want me too? Well, you can't have me." Darian's jaw tightened. But he didn't strike back. "You think I chose this?" he said. "You think I wanted to feel your pain, your anger, your every damn breath?" His voice wasn't angry. It was tired. "I didn't ask for this bond, Ezra. But I can't ignore it. I can't pretend it's not there anymore." "Well, I can." "You're not pretending. You're running." That shut me up. Because it was true. I hated him. I hated this. But I was terrified of what it meant if I stopped hating it. Terrified of what it might feel like to stop fighting. By nightfall, the cabin had grown warmer. Or maybe I'd just stopped caring. He slept on the cot. I stayed on the floor, blankets wrapped tight, facing the opposite wall. But I could still feel his heartbeat. Slow, steady, oddly calming. I matched my breathing to his without meaning to. And for the first time since the bond awakened, I didn't feel alone. The storm hadn't let up. Neither had the thing inside me. I stood by the frosted window, my fingers trembling as I tried to send a message. "Need evac. Injured. Can't stay here. Send help." No signal. Of course. I tried again, shifting toward the broken corner of the room where reception was usually the strongest. Still nothing. Just one blinking bar, teasing me before vanishing into nothingness. Like freedom itself. I sank down against the wall and closed my eyes, gripping the old phone like it might somehow pull me back to who I was before this. Before the bond. Before him. I remembered another winter. A darker one. Liv was 17. She'd been promised, claimed, by an alpha from a neighboring pack. A strategic union, they called it. My parents said it would bring peace, strength, but I knew what he was. A controlling brute with dead eyes and a cruel mouth. And she was trembling the day they sealed the pact. I still saw the bruises on her wrist from where he'd grabbed her too hard during the welcoming. I still remembered how I'd taken her and run in the middle of the night, how we'd lived on the run for a month, hunted by both packs until Moonspire offered sanctuary. And now I was bonded to the exact kind of man I'd feared she'd become trapped with, an alpha. Even worse, this alpha. I curled tighter against the wall, trying not to scream. Ezra. His voice broke through the silence like a soft crack of thunder. I didn't turn. "You're hurting," he said. "Brilliant observation," I muttered. "Anything else in your alpha wisdom?" I heard him shift. Wood creaked under his weight as he sat near the fireplace again. "I don't want to fight with you." Then stop talking. Silence. I waited for the usual pushback. The commanding tone. The "you will listen" I'd heard from every alpha who thought they owned the world. But none came. Just quiet. Then a sentence I didn't expect. "I almost killed my brother when I shifted the first time." I turned slowly. He stared into the fire. Not at me. I was 13, younger than most. It happened too fast. I didn't know what was happening. I was just angry. Scared. He said something stupid, I snapped, and the wolf took over. I came within seconds of tearing his throat out. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled. I've never forgotten the way he looked at me afterward. Like I was a monster. I swallowed hard. What happened to him? He forgave me. Eventually. But I never forgave myself. He looked at me then, finally, and the honesty in his face made it hard to breathe. I spent every day since then trying to control it. The instincts, the pull, the need. I thought I had it under control, until you. I laughed. Bitter and small. "And now I'm the one who makes you feel like a monster?" He didn't answer. Because we both knew the truth. This wasn't love. It was a curse. A chain forged by fate and blood and instincts I didn't choose. I noticed it then. Blood on his arm. A jagged cut just beneath his sleeve, still oozing. "You're bleeding," I said. "It's nothing." "It's not nothing." I stood, walked to the supply crate, and dug through it for antiseptic. He raised a brow when I returned with gauze. "You're going to patch me up now? Don't flatter yourself. If you bleed out, I'll be stuck here with a corpse that smells like you." That made him smile. Just faintly. Charming as always. I sat beside him and pulled his sleeve back, more forcefully than I needed to. The cut was ugly. Deep enough to sting, shallow enough not to be fatal. "Hold still," I muttered. He did. I cleaned the wound in silence. Each time, my fingers brushed his skin. The bond pulsed, like a spark under the surface. It was maddening. Infuriating. But I didn't stop. Not even when his breath hitched slightly as I tied the gauze around his arm. "There," I said. "Now you can brood dramatically without leaking all over the cabin." His lips twitched. "Thank you." I hated how warm that made me feel. We sat in silence again, the fire crackling low. My hands rested in my lap, still tingling from where I'd touched him. Then, without warning, he reached out. Not to grab me. Just his hand brushing mine. A single point of contact, and something slammed into me. Not pain, not even heat. A memory, not mine, his. I was laughing. Not now. In the memory. I was sitting by a stream, skipping stones, head tilted back, hair windblown and wild. And he, Darian, stood nearby, younger, watching me. With awe, with something like wonder. He hadn't even spoken to me that day. I barely noticed he was there, but he'd remembered it all this time. He'd watched me laugh, and kept that image like a secret. I tore my hand away like it had burned me. Darian was still looking at the fire. Quiet. As if he hadn't just let me see the softest, most unguarded part of him. As if he hadn't just handed me a memory of myself through his eyes. And the worst part? I wanted to see more. We returned to camp just after dawn. The storm had buried half the forest, but the sky had cleared, blue and pale, like it had forgotten the wreckage below. The path back was silent. Neither of us spoke, but the space between us... different. Not warmer. Not exactly. Just charged. Like the silence had shifted from empty to full. When we crossed the border, I expected the usual routine. Guards, questions, a medic maybe. What I didn't expect was the stares. Dozens of eyes. Watching. Judging. Knowing. I felt it immediately. They sensed it. The bond. Or maybe just the fact that I wasn't snarling at Darian like I used to. He walked a step behind me. Not as an alpha. Just beside me. Letting me lead. And somehow, that made it worse. Are you insane? That was the first thing Liv said when she saw me. She stormed across the campfire circle, her boots kicking up snow, her braid whipping behind her like a warning flag. Liv, I started, but she cut me off. You disappear for 2 days and come back with him? Her eyes flicked to Darian, then back to me. She looked like she wanted to set something on fire, and unfortunately, I was the closest matchstick. I got hurt, I said. We got stuck. Oh, and that's all it takes? A little snow, and suddenly you're best friends with the man you've hated since you grew teeth? I winced. It's not like that. Her voice dropped, low and dangerous. Then what is it like, Ezra? I opened my mouth, and realized I didn't have an answer. Because I didn't know. It wasn't nothing. It wasn't friendship. And it definitely wasn't love. Not yet. Maybe not ever, but it was something. And I couldn't lie to her about it. Liv. I started again. She took a step back, her expression cracking. You're bonded to him. It wasn't a question. I hesitated too long. That was answer enough. Her voice trembled now, not with fear but with fury held on a thread. He's an alpha. They don't change, Ezra. They take. And when they break you, they call it destiny. Those words hit too close to the bone. Because part of me believed them. Part of me still wanted to believe them. It was easier than admitting the truth. That he hadn't broken me. That maybe, just maybe, he'd held me together. Later, I sat on the edge of the training ring, arms crossed, head low. People passed me like I was a ticking bomb. Not out of fear, just discomfort. I didn't blame them. Bonds weren't just personal. In a pack, they were political. And I had just bonded with the most powerful wolf in our territory. Lucky me. Rough day? I looked up. Roan. Tall, quiet, always perfectly composed. Darian's second-in-command and longtime friend. He stood with his hands in his pockets, gaze sharp, but not unkind. You know already, don't you? I asked. He shrugged. Hard not to notice. You smell different. So does he. I grimaced. Gross. Roan let out a short, humorless laugh. You're handling it better than I thought, he said. You mean, not running into the woods screaming? I mean, not tearing his throat out. Yet. A pause. He studied me a moment longer, then said quietly, he's softer with you. I frowned. He's still an ass. Yeah, Roan agreed, but he used to be a lonely one. He left before I could reply. That night, I found myself by the edge of camp, near the old stone circle where we trained in the summers. I wasn't surprised when I sensed him there. Darian stood in the shadows, arms crossed, looking out at the snow-covered trees. He didn't turn when I approached. We stood in silence for a long time. Then he said, She hates me. She doesn't know you, do you? That hit harder than I expected. I turned away, kicking at the snow with my boot. I don't know what to think anymore. I don't blame you. Another pause. Then he said, You ever wonder if we hated each other so much because we saw too much of ourselves in the other? I blinked. That wasn't what I'd expected. Because we're both angry all the time? I muttered. No. Because we're afraid of what we want. I laughed, quiet, bitter, and What's that? He finally looked at me. Not like an alpha, not like a leader, just a man. To stop fighting everything. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Because deep down, I did want that. To stop pushing. To stop clawing against something I didn't even understand. But wanting it didn't make it safe. I can't promise you anything, I said. I'm not asking you to, he replied. He stepped back into the shadows. But his voice lingered like warmth in the cold. I just want you to know, I see you, Ezra. Not the fighter, not the beta. You. And I'm not going anywhere. It started with the way he moved. I watched him from the edge of the training ring. Arms folded, expression blank. But my eyes followed him without permission. The way he paced between the young recruits, posture relaxed but alert, voice low and calm. He didn't bark orders. He asked questions. Listened, not how I remembered him, not how I wanted to remember him. He helped one of the younger betas correct his stance with a quiet word and a hand on the shoulder. The kid straightened, flushed, nodded. No fear, just respect. And there was something in me that hated seeing that, because it meant he wasn't the monster I'd built in my head. He was just a man. You're watching him. I didn't need to turn to know it was Roan. He leaned against the tree next to me, arms crossed, eyes on the same scene. His jaw was tight. I didn't answer. You didn't ask for this bond, he said flatly. But neither did I. That caught me off guard. I glanced at him. What are you talking about? He exhaled, slow and heavy. His voice stayed calm. But something sharp simmered beneath. I loved him. Quietly. For 10 years. I was there through every shift, every mistake. I was there when he bled and when he broke. And he never looked at me, not once, the way he looks at you now. I swallowed. Hard. I didn't mean for this to happen, I said. And even I hated how weak it sounded. No one means for it, he muttered. That's the curse, isn't it? You come in with all that fire and hate, and he gives you everything. I didn't know what to say. For the first time in a long time, I didn't want to say anything. Because for the first time, I felt responsible for someone else's pain. Even if I never asked for it. Even if I didn't know what to do with it. Later during sparring drills, one of the younger wolves, Colt, all limbs and cocky teeth, muttered too loudly near the ring. I don't get it. He bonds with Ezra, and we're all just supposed to act like it's fine? Like it's not some weird mistake? Darian didn't react. He just kept demonstrating a hold. But I did. I stepped into the ring. Colt looked up, startled. Beta? Try it on me, I said. The hold. Since you have so many opinions. He blinked. I didn't mean... No, go on. Show me how it's done. A few of the others shuffled back, sensing what was about to happen. Colt lunged, awkward, and rushed. I sidestepped, flipped him hard onto his back, and pinned him in seconds. Then I leaned down and said quietly, You don't have to like who your alpha bonds with. But you will respect him. Or you'll answer to me. His eyes widened. He nodded. I let him go. That night, I climbed to the roof of the main lodge. It was something I did when I couldn't sleep. Just air, stars, and distance. So of course he was already up there. Darian sat on the edge, legs dangling over the side, his coat draped loosely around him. He didn't turn when I joined him. But after a minute he said, You didn't have to defend me. I wasn't, I muttered, sitting beside him. I was defending the chain of command. He glanced at me. Right. We sat in silence for a while, watching the wind move through the treetops. Then I said, You ever think maybe the bond picked the wrong people? All the time. That surprised me. You don't say that like someone who's offended. I'm not. His voice was low. But I won't lie and say this is easy. Or what I imagined. You're not exactly gentle. Good. I said. I don't want gentle. I want truth. Even if it's ugly. He looked at me again. This time, his eyes were softer. I don't want you to be anything but yourself. I swallowed hard. The words settled somewhere deep, right behind my ribs, where the bond pulsed steady and slow. I'm tired, I said after a moment. Of being angry, of fighting, of pushing everything away before it can get close. He didn't respond right away. Then he said, "Then don't fight. Not me. Not this. I'm not asking you to love me, Ezra. I'm just saying, I'll be here when you're ready." I didn't say anything. But for the first time since this whole thing began, I wanted to believe him. And that scared me more than anything else. It hit like a knife to the gut. One second I was walking toward the northern ridge with a patrol unit. The next, I doubled over, gasping, clutching my side. Not my pain. Someone else's. Sharp. Wild. Young. And not far. Darian was already running. I followed him without thinking. Like something inside me had snapped awake and dragged me forward. The young wolf, Arlo, was curled up near the stream, bleeding from a deep gash across his ribs. His fur was soaked crimson. Breath ragged. The scent of rogues lingered in the air. They were gone now, but not before doing damage. Darian dropped to his knees beside the pup without hesitation. I didn't stop him, because in that moment, I felt Arlo's pain through Darian. And Darian's fear through me. We were layered in it. Raw. Spiraling. Shared. And we weren't the only ones who noticed. Pack members began to gather. Eyes narrowed. Voices dropped to whispers. They felt it too. "What's happening to us?" I muttered under my breath, still trying to catch it. "You're resonating," came a familiar voice behind me. "Master Hale." The old wolf moved with a quiet gravity, leaning slightly on his staff as he approached. His eyes held the depth of too many winters, and too many truths no one wanted to speak aloud. "You've both crossed into emotional resonance. It's rare, strong, unstable, if left untouched." "Touched how?" I asked. He looked between us. "The bond needs to be sealed. Not just accepted privately, but witnessed, grounded, by the pack." My heart stopped. "You mean public?" Hale nodded. "There's an old ritual, one of merging instinct and intent. It strengthens both the bond and the territory. But it must be done willingly." Darian stood slowly. His eyes found mine. I didn't need the bond to read what he was asking. "Are you ready for this?" I didn't know, but I nodded anyway. They cleared the center of the clearing. A wide ring formed, pack members watching in tense silence. Some with curiosity, others with apprehension. A few with veiled contempt. I saw Roan standing at the edge, jaw tight. I saw Colt, the young beta, fidgeting with discomfort. And then I saw Liv. She stood just beyond the last row, arms crossed, eyes unreadable. But she didn't look away. She stayed. Master Hale began the invocation with slow, rhythmic words in the old tongue. He traced symbols in ash around us, forming a boundary of intent. "Stand facing one another," he instructed. We did. Darian looked steady, calm. But I could feel the thrum of his pulse through the bond. He was just as rattled as I was. "Hands," Hale said. We reached out at the same time. His hand was warm, solid, familiar now, in a way that should have terrified me, but didn't. Not anymore. As our palms touched, the bond flared. Not pain, just presence, deep and ancient, and us. Master Hale continued, "Speak your intention." Darian didn't hesitate. "I don't hold you. I hold on to you. There's a difference." My throat tightened. I didn't have anything poetic prepared, so I said the only thing that felt real. I didn't choose this bond, but I choose not to run from it anymore. Something shifted then, not just between us, but in the air, in the earth. The trees seemed to exhale. The wind softened. A ripple passed through the circle like lightning beneath the skin. Some wolves flinched. Others bowed their heads. I saw Liv blink hard, but she didn't look away. Not this time. After the ritual, the crowd slowly dispersed. Quiet. Thoughtful. No one spoke to us directly. But they didn't turn their backs either. Small steps. I was still standing there, dazed, when Darian leaned in and whispered, "You did good." I rolled my eyes, but didn't let go of his hand. "Don't get used to it." He laughed. Soft, low, real. We walked back together, side by side. And for the first time since this whole thing began, I didn't feel like I was carrying the weight alone. We slipped away before anyone could ask for speeches or plans. The clearing had been too full, of eyes, of judgment, of pressure. I needed air. And apparently, so did he. Now we sat on the ridge just outside the border, looking out over the stretch of forest that separated us from the rest of the world. The stars were sharp tonight, scattered like broken glass across the sky. The moon hung low, full, and unbothered. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't bothered. I wasn't fighting. I wasn't fleeing. I wasn't analyzing every second of silence between us. I was just sitting beside him. Darian had his coat draped across both of our shoulders. Our legs brushed slightly, but he didn't shift away. Neither did I. "You remember the last time we were out here?" he asked after a while. I snorted. "Yeah. You tried to bite my ear off. You tried to break my nose with a rock. You called me a flea-bitten mutt." He grinned. "I stand by that one." I elbowed him. "You were the cockiest pup I'd ever met. And you were the loudest." "Still am." That part I noticed. We both laughed. Quiet, honest. Not forced. Not laced with tension. Just real. There was a pause, then he added, "Softer now. You were fast though. Even back then." I glanced sideways at him. "You noticed?" "Always." That pulled something in my chest. Tight, strange, warm. "You never said anything," I murmured. "You wouldn't have listened." "Fair." He turned his head slightly to face me. "You ever think it might have been easier if the Bond picked someone else?" he asked. Not accusingly. Just curiously. "All the time," I said honestly. "But they wouldn't have punched you in the face on your birthday." Tragic. "And they definitely wouldn't have told you your leadership style is just brooding with eyebrows." He huffed a laugh. "So, what you're saying is, I got lucky." I met his eyes. "No. You got me." "That's a whole different gamble." We fell quiet again. But not awkwardly. The kind of silence where you don't need to fill it. The kind that feels like permission to breathe. I looked up at the stars. Then said, almost without thinking, "I never thought I'd say this. But I like you better when you're not being the alpha." He glanced over, brows raised. "Yeah? Yeah. When you're just Darian. Less orders. More awkward jokes." He tilted his head. "So, this version of me?" I nodded. He shifted closer. "So, you don't hate me right now?" I rolled my eyes. "Don't ruin it." He chuckled. Noted. Then silence again. But it held something this time. Something waiting. And slowly he leaned in. Not suddenly. Not with dominance or heat or claiming instinct. Just gently. A question. And I answered it. Our lips met softly. No fireworks, no dramatic music. Just warmth. Warmth and breath, and the kind of closeness that doesn't scream or demand or overwhelm. It settles. It stays. When we pulled apart, neither of us rushed to speak. But eventually, I said, quietly, honestly, I didn't choose this bond. Darian's brow furrowed slightly, like he expected a butt that would cut him down. So I gave him a different one. But I choose you. Not because of fate, not because I have to. I choose you, every time, on purpose. He looked at me like he didn't know what to do with that, and then he smiled. A real one, soft, slightly crooked. Perfectly human. The hall buzzed with tension. It wasn't the hostile kind, more like quiet curiosity. Like everyone could feel something was about to shift. Something permanent. Darian stood at the center of the circle, posture easy, but his voice firm. We've led this pack the same way for generations. One alpha, one command, one voice. But we are more than wolves who follow instinct. We are people, we are choices, and I choose not to lead alone. He turned slightly. His eyes found mine. Not a signal, not a cue. An invitation. I stepped forward. The murmurs grew. He extended his hand. I didn't hesitate. When I took it, something clicked into place. In the crowd, in the circle, in me. This isn't about dominance, I said. It's about balance. You don't get one of us without the other. That's how we work. That's how we protect. Some heads nodded. A few arms crossed. But no one looked away. And that was enough. The vote passed. Not unanimously, but solidly. From now on, Moonspire would have not just an alpha, but a CO leader. A bonded beta with equal say, equal voice, and equal weight. It wasn't just a title. It was a promise. Liv stood near the edge of the gathering, her arms still crossed. But when our eyes met, she nodded. Not big. Not performative. But real. And coming from her, that was loud enough. Later that afternoon, a courier brought a letter from across the border. Roan's handwriting was neat. Steady. Ezra, I meant what I said. But I meant it in anger. That's not fair to either of you. I've left for the coast. Time to figure out who I am when I'm not standing in his shadow. Don't screw this up. You're good for him. And maybe, he's good for you too. I folded the letter and tucked it into my coat pocket. The wind felt easier on my skin that day. Later, Darian and I stood together at the cliff's edge. Looking out at the woods, the world, the future. He bumped his shoulder into mine, light and familiar. You okay? He asked. Getting there. Still hate me a little? I smirked. A little. Keeps me sharp. We stood in silence. Then I let myself think it, say it, just once, in my head. I hated him because he was part of me I was afraid to face. Now I look at him, and see myself. And it doesn't scare me anymore.